embassy on it. Now, what the embassy is going to be doing is providing material support for those diplomats who know that get rid of this material. That includes things like burden. This tells us right now that this embassy is in a place that they are preparing for the worst. Don't get rid of classified material in any American flag unless you are expecting the possibility that you really will have to evacuate that embassy. Now, that is not the situation right now, as we heard from the Pentagon spokesperson. Right now, there are U.S. troops on the way to Afghanistan to help get out some of the U.S. personnel who are in that embassy. There's no decision to evacuate that embassy. But right now, those preparations are underway in very real
Holy words on my tongue. Flower fields where I'm running. You are the answer every path that I take, glowing with silver lining.
That DHS is looking at, and they are warning of potential violence on a number of different fronts. Of course, the 20th anniversary of 9/11 is just less than a month away, and in this bulletin, DHS highlights the fact that Al-Qaeda, for the first time in 4 years, has issued a copy of its English language magazine called Inspire, which goes to show, they say, that they are still looking to motivate and inspire, if you will, local American homegrown violent extremists who could carry out attacks here on the homeland. And then they also talk about a second set of extremists, which are often referred to in the national security space as essentially those who are driven by grievances, things like the big lie, believing that Trump actually won the election last year, or restrictions by the government when it comes to COVID and things like that. And they say that in the coming in the near future, there could be attacks by those types of domestic violent extremists who are resisting and who are angry about these restrictions. And some of those attacks could be carried out against religious institutions and other types of institutions around religious holidays. There is, of course, a string of Jewish holidays coming up in September next month. So, Victor, we're also hearing from the head of intelligence at the Department of Homeland Security, who says that the chatter that they are seeing online, on social media, in different online forums, is akin to what they were hearing in the lead up to January 6th, and not just like what they were hearing in the lead up to that insurrection, but that they are seeing an uptick in that violent language that they say, John Cohen says, the head of intelligence at DHS says, could lead to more violence. This is something that they have been warning for quite some time, that there are a number of conspiracy theories that are fueling this potential violence. But through that, there is one common element, and that is a belief that Donald Trump is, in fact, the real winner of the 2020 election, that this big lie, as we've been calling it, has the real potential to fuel violence. That big lie is not going away. Donald Trump continues to spout it at rallies and speeches, and he has other supporters doing the same. So DHS now warning that there is potential for violence on a number of different fronts, Victor.
Clear danger in repeating and promulgating that lie. Alex Marquardt for us. Thank you.
are the edge I regret. Every path that I take, glowing with silver linings.
Is that the U.S. Embassy in Kabul is instructing their diplomats to get rid of any sensitive materials. This is from a management notice that was sent to those personnel on the ground. What they're telling them to do is get rid of anything that's sensitive. Of course, that's classified material. They're also telling them to get rid of anything that could be misused in propaganda efforts. So they're noting things like an American flag or something that has the stamp of the U.S. Embassy on it. Now, what the embassy is going to be doing is providing material support for those diplomats, for those personnel at the embassy to get rid of this material. That includes things like burn bins. What this tells us right now is that this embassy is in a place where they are preparing for the worst situation. You don't get rid of classified materials in anything, including an American flag, unless you are expecting the possibility that you really will have to evacuate that embassy. Now, that is not the situation right now. As we heard from the Pentagon spokesperson, right now there are U.S. troops on the way to Afghanistan to help get out some of the U.S. personnel who have been at the embassy. There's no decision yet to evacuate that embassy, but right now those preparations are underway in a very real way.
All right, Kylie, stay with us. I want to bring back now Nick Paton-Walsh, also CNN Global Affairs analyst Kimberly Dozier. Nick, let me start with you with the breaking news from Kylie. And I want you to reconcile that with what we heard from Admiral Kirby there when he says that Kabul right now is not an imminent threat environment. However, the embassy staff is being told to destroy sensitive material. Is there a direct contradiction there?
Well, yes, I mean, John Kirby, a communication professional, has long been able to square the sort of sad reality often on the ground with the message that the US government want to give out. We saw a bit of that today as well. While he gave us the news that we've seen, apparently, or we know now, that the first Marines have landed in Karzai International Airport, he also went on to remind everybody of the strength of the Afghan security forces, their numbers of 300,000, the resources they have, the fact that he says they're doing more airstrikes than the Americans are at the moment. That's probably true, given the reduction in US air power. So still pushing a message that essentially there's something in the Afghan security forces that may be able to fight back and resist. Quite how that comes to fruition, we simply don't know at this stage. Yes, the phrase not in an imminent threat environment, you can pass that as much as you like, but essentially he's saying that Kabul isn't immediately under siege at the moment, and that's true. But what Kylie, I think, is reporting there is the acceptance of the inevitable, most likely, by the US Embassy. It's an enormous compound. They simply don't want to have enough people there necessarily.
Based on prudence, to make sure that you have what you need and that you have reserve if you need reserves, because we don't know exactly how the situation's going to unfold. It's not, he didn't choose these units or this approach to send a message. He chose these units and this approach to accomplish a mission and to make sure that he had enough capability and capacity to do it safely and in an orderly fashion. That said, and I've said this now three or four times, if these forces are attacked and threatened, we have the ability, the right of self-defense, and we will respond in a forceful and appropriate way.
And just one quick follow-up. we've talked about the troops from the 82nd Airborne going into Kuwait that could be on standby if needed. Is their mission going to be, if they are needed, exactly like the ones from the 3,000 that will be arriving by the end of this weekend? Or would it be something different?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Sure, no problem. The brigade, the BCT, headed to Kuwait.
Yeah.
Is their mission, should they be called upon, are they going to be doing exactly what the 3,000, the 3 battalions arriving in Kabul by the end of the weekend? Or is there some thinking that maybe they might do something else?
They're a ready reserve force that we would have available to us should they be needed for any number of security missions. And again, I couldn't begin to speculate right now what those missions would look like. But they will have capabilities that are commensurate with the infantry battalions that are going to Hamid Karzai International Airport over the course of the next few days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question is that Pakistan is blaming now again U.S. for the crisis in Afghanistan, and also Prime Minister of Pakistan, he said he already endorsed the Taliban government in Kabul. And finally, if any country in the region, including India, asks U.S. help in this mission of evacuation?
I don't know of any other nations involved in this. I mean, these are sovereign decisions that nation states have to make. As I said yesterday, should we be asked to support any movement by our allies and partners, we can do that, and we will do that. I don't know of any, but I don't know of any such requests or such requirements. And look, just broadly speaking, what we said before is any of Afghanistan's neighboring nations, and any nations in the international community that believe they have or want to have a stake in the future of Afghanistan, we simply would urge them to act in ways that helps lead to those kinds of better outcomes for the Afghan people, and to help us continue to pursue a negotiated political settlement.